Good morning to all of you. In the very outset, I should thank you and congratulate you. In spite of this heavy rain, you have joined at least 11 members have joined for this online class because many in the rural area may not be getting the internet connection. So that may be also the reason where the students may maximum number of students fail to join this. Okay. Uh, just to recapitulate what we have discussed in the last class. In the last class, all of you know that we have started the coelentrates. Coelentrates or cnidarians. They are also known as cnidaria. They are exclusively marine organisms with maximum number of species found in the marine water. And although the most of them are marine, there are few freshwater forms also. For example, the freshwater hydra. The key feature is for the first time you can see here the tissue grade of organization and radial symmetry. Then the presence of stinging cells, that's the cnidoblast cells, which help them in capturing the prey as well as defending them from the predators. So now, after having studied the general characters, we will move on to the study of classification and the characters. So this classification, actually, I have told you in the last class, phylum Cnidaria is divided into four major classes: Hydrozoa, Scyphozoa, Cubozoa, and Anthozoa. But a fifth class, that is Staurozoa, is also been proposed, but many do not agree to this class and some agree to this. So that's why here the speciality of uh, Staurozoa is no medusae or but polyp, only polyp, no medusae in life cycle, but polyp topped with a medusa-like region. Actually, they are polyps, but it looks like they are topped up, having a cap of medusa-like structure. So they are categorized under the Staurozoa. So this Staurozoa, that is popularly they are called as Stauromedusans. So no medusa stage, and usually the uh, solitary single polyp body that is stalked, which you can see in the photograph. That's a stalk by means of which it can attach. And they use an adhesive disc, mostly attaching themselves to seaweeds or sometimes the boulders, rocks in the uh, ocean. Polyps are provided with top resembles the medusae. See here the polyp top. This entire structure you see, it looks like an umbrella-like structure. So the top resembles like a medusae. So that's why they are the specialized one. And with 8 extensions you can expect here: one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 extensions which you can see, and these extensions you can call them as arms. And from these arms, each one is having number of tentacles or cluster of tentacles, and they reproduce sexually. Uh, so this is a very small class. Even many do not agree to the fact of including them as a separate class. But few taxonomists in the recent years they include them as a separate class. But traditionally speaking, we have three important classes: Hydrozoa, Scyphozoa, Anthozoa, and one more, that the Cubozoa. These are the traditional classes which has been agreed upon from many years. And in most of the books, you will get these Hydrozoa, Scyphozoa, Anthozoa, and Cubozoa as the four classes. Now we will try to discuss these classes and their characteristics and examples one by one. First, let us start with the class Hydrozoa. So these hydrozoans are the variable forms, and mostly they are marine, and most of them are forming the colonies. They branch like this is a colony of obelia, where you can see number of obelia they have joined and formed a colony. And but there are certain forms which are solitary also. Here you can see a freshwater hydra, which is a solitary form, but most of them are colonial forms. Uh, so this class Hydrozoa has a typical life cycle of these cnidarians or coelentrates. Here you can see alternation of generation. That is, some have they most of them alternate. See, this is the um, where you can see here this is the medusae. Medusae give rise to uh, this what you call the gametes, and gametes fuse and then form a fuse swimming larva, and then it becomes a polyp, and polyp gives medusae by asexually, and medusae gives polyp by sexually by producing male and female gamete. This is in most of the hydrozoans you can expect. But there are certain hydrogen, very few number of hydrogen which are not exhibiting this alternation of generation. Instead of that, some of them may be having only polyps, some of them may be having only medusoid form. But generally speaking, in hydrozoa, you can see the typical life cycle of coelenterate, that alternation of generation, where polyp give rise to medusa and medusa give rise to polyp sexually. So this is the condition. So typically, this hydrozoan polyps, if you see, they have a very long stalk or a base, what you call, and at the top, you can see the more these are known as zooids, which are nothing but the individual polyps, and these are actually the individual animals, but all of them together they have a stalk and attached to the base. And here the this particularly the polyps are surrounded by a protective cup externally, where you can see, so that's why they are attaining the shape of a cup shaped structure. See here, and this cup is formed by the thicket. They are known as thicket, and most of them are thicket because they are having a protective cup around this polyp, but there are few which do not have this protective cup. A good example for thicket organism, that is having a cup protecting the polyps, that is seen in case of the obelia, and they are known as thicket, and a thicket where there are no protective cup, for example the euplectron. So this class Hydrozoa, they also form the medusae, because I have shown you most of them show alternation generation. This uh, hydroid medusae are usually they are small medusae compared to other groups of coelentrates like Scyphozoa and Scyphozoa. Here they are very small compared to that one, and here, the gastrovascular cavity, which you can see the white line inside, which where the cursor is moving, is continuous from mouth to the tentacles, from mouth to the tentacles, and it is entirely lined by gastrodermis. And there is a inward projection of frill-like structure that is known as velum, and ultimately it looks like an inverted bell. Even these medusae having some specialized organs like statocysts. Statocysts are very important for any aquatic organism because it helps in maintaining the equilibrium while swimming. Because all of you know the medusoid is a pre-swimming stage, and in order to maintain the balance, they are having this statocyst. Then uh, at the base of these tentacles, you can also see ocelli. Ocelli are the minute cells, sensory cells, which are sensitive to light. So that's why this medusae can detect the presence and absence of light because of the presence of this light sensitive ocelli. See, this is the cross section of a medusae, where you can see this is the oral lobe, this is the mouth, and this is the gastrovascular cavity. And gastrovascular cavity is continuous up to this entire uh, bell margin up to these tentacles. So in that, and here I have told you inside there is a fold, that is what you call velum. It is nothing like function like a frill, and on the surface you can see the long tentacles, and these tentacles are armed with the nematocysts. that the stinging cells. And here you can also see the gonads, and wherever you see the statocysts, see here there are statocysts which help them to maintain the equilibrium. So this is the cross section of a medusae of hydrozoa. So this class hydrozoa, members of the order, even some of the hydrozoans, remember one particular order, that is Siphonophora. A good example is Portuguese man of war. It's a colony of polyp individuals where large number of polyps like that they float as a float, and they are also having some feeding polyps along the tentacles, reproductive polyps. So a single individual may have different types of polyps. They are the individual actually, but they have formed a colony. So this is a floating polyp. Here you can see the polyps which are used for feeding polyps, and on that only see these are some of the reproductive polyps which undertake the process of reproduction. Like that, they exhibit division of labor. Uh, Even class Hydrozoa resembles the corals, some of them, because they have calcareous, some of them are having hydrocorals, what we call. The corals of the Hydrozoa, we call it as hydrocoral. True corals do not come under Hydrozoa. These are the some only few exceptional corals, and they are known as hydrocorals. They resemble true corals because their body is made up of calcium carbonate. For example, this is the fire coral, where you can see the body is made up of hard lime. So now let's try to discuss about the examples. The most prominent example, probably since from your high school or primary school level, you might have heard about Hydra. Hydra is a good example for a hydrozoan class, and it's a very important because in coelentrates only few are freshwater forms, and Hydra is one among them. So the Hydra is a freshwater form, and here only polyp, no medusa, only polyp. Uh, then testis form the sperm through meiosis. Ovaries produces the egg, and most and thereby it undertakes the reproduction, both sexual as well as asexual. Asexual reproduction is by means of producing buds from the parent, and then once this bud develops, it may cut off from the parent body. Most of the time, because Hydra is a solitary organism, it's a small freshwater animal. Uh, they are native to temperate and tropical region. Both temperate and tropical region, you can see the Hydra. Um, People, especially the biologists, are more interested in Hydra because of their regenerative ability. This is a very remarkable feature in most of the coelentrates, but this ability has reached the zenith in Hydra regeneration. Even if you crush the Hydra and throw the pieces, each piece will develop into an individual Hydra. They have a remarkable uh, characteristic feature of regeneration. Hydra is a very small tubular organism, radially symmetrical body, and grows up to 10 mm in length, long when extended, and with the help of an adhesive foot called as basal disc, they attach to leaves, vegetation, or logs, uh, and even the gland cells at the basal disc, they secrete some sticky fluid. Uh, by that also the adhesive property increases. What's important for us is the free end of the hydra. Free end of the hydra body is mouth opening, but it is surrounded by 1 to 12 tentacles, depending upon the species, by 1 to 12 thin mobile tentacles. Each tentacle is having a nida, that is the nidae. It is clothed in the highly specialized stinging cell called as nidocytes. A nida is there. It is actually the stinging uh, part, and it is sheathed in a cell what is known as nidocytes. And these nidocytes contain specialized structure called nematocysts, which look like a miniature light bulb, which has a coiled thread inside. Even it comes out as a small hair-like structure called nidocyli. Upon contact with the prey, the content of these nematocysts are explosively discharged, firing dart-like thread containing a neurotoxin. Uh, Usually it can paralyze the prey. So they sting and inject this neurotoxin into the body of the prey, and prey get paralyzed. At a time, hundreds of nematocysts are fired, not a single nematocyst. And the locomotion in case of the hydra is also very very interesting, which you can see here how it wants to, because it's a mostly solitary, it is attached, but still it can undertake the locomotion. While locomoting, they bend, attach, and they become inverted. Then the pedal disc attaches, then this free end detaches, and so this is how it can cover the distance. This is one mode of locomotion which you can see. Otherwise, hydra is generally sedentary or sessile, but occasionally they may move slightly, especially for hunting, looping, and somersaulting. It is known as looping and somersaulting. See, this is how this photograph will explain how the locomotion takes place in case of the hydra. And even a hydra can move several inches in a day, very slow, and usually by detaching the from the substrate and attaching with the help of turning upside down and again attaching. Sometimes they may detach from the substrate and float away in the current. They cannot swim, but in the water current they can swim. When feeding also, hydra extends their body to the maximum length. Slowly they extend the tentacles, and because tentacles are extraordinarily extensive. Though the tentacles look very small, but when they are in action, they can extend to a greater distance, even 5 times the length of the body. Um, then they catch the prey animal, and then upon contact, nematocysts fire the animal, and within 30 seconds, most of the remaining tentacles will have already joined the attack, and within 2 minutes, tentacle will surround the prey, because the prey will be paralyzed because of these neurotoxins, then enclose them in the body cavity, and digestion starts. Hydra is able to stretch the body considerably. That is the very specialty of this hydra. Um, then reproduction, if you can see, the hydra can reproduce asexually by budding also. See, this is small protuberance which grows from the base, and it develops into a new hydra, young hydra, and detaches here from the parent. Um, Asexually, they even another method of reproduction is what you call the regeneration. If even if accidentally, if the body is cut into two pieces will develop into two new individuals. Apart from that, even the sexual reproduction is also occurs. Especially mature polyps, they produce the gonads. Fertilized egg give rise to tiny larvae, gametes, and they fertilize. And this fertilized egg develops into a tiny, very tiny larva which can swim and then attaches themselves to some stationary objects. Then develop the polyp. Then once the polyps are formed, they reproduce continuously by budding, and but regeneration, or when they mature again they go for sexual reproduction. See the sexual organs which you can this see, the testis on the body, the image of the hydra with the ovaries growing in the body wall, and they produce the gametes. Another example for this hydrozoa is obelia. Obelia is another organ. It is a sedentary organ, stationary. It cannot move, but it's a marine one. Only the freshwater example that we have studied is that is being found is the hydra for your study. Then obelia is another interesting example for this hydrozoa, but it's a marine and colonial form. They are also found attached to seaweeds, sometimes even larger molluscan shells, rocks, wood piles, even up to a depth of 80 meters. Uh, Obelia is a cosmopolitan distribution. Cosmopolitan means worldwide distribution. Everywhere it is found, forming a whitish or light brown plant-like structure in the sea. So that's why the common name for Obelia is sea fir because it looks like a light brown plant-like fur. See, even if you see this photograph, then you will understand why it's called a sea fir because it looks like a sea plant. So they attaches here. See, there's a hydrorhiza. By means of that, they attaches, and above that, there's a hydrocolus. And on the hydrocolus, you can see the medusa birds, different types. I will come to that later. Um, See, this is another photograph. There's a hand sketch how the Obelia colony appears. Obelia has number of zooids. These are called as zooids. These are actually individual polyps. Zooids are individual polyps, but they are forming a colony. These individual zooids have different functions. Some are feeding zooids, some are reproducing zooids, some are protective in function. So there's a division of labor, and all of them live together, uh, and they are all attached by a common stalk, what you call the hydrocolas. Uh, Each Obelia colony, Obelia is not a single one, it's always a colony, consists of horizontal thread-like root that is known as hydrorhiza, which is attached. This is hydrorhiza actually, the base. This is hydrorhiza, the thread-like very minute hydrorhiza, which is attached to weeds or any substratum. From hydrorhiza arises vertical branching stem known as hydrocolus. It is about even 2.5 centimeters. This is the hydrocolus, vertical branching, like the tree. Total height may even go up to 2.5 centimeters, known as hydrocolus. And hydrorhiza and hydrocolus, they have a hollow tubes. Here it is, they are hollow. Inside it is hollow, remember. Even this hydrorhiza is also hollow. So hydrorhiza bears zooids or polyps on either side in a cymose formation. See here, these are all zooids. This hydrorhiza and hydrocolus together, they bear, each one is a zooid. This is one zooid, this is another zooid, this is third, fourth, like that. You have different types of zooids. At the growing end of the main branch, there are immature club-shaped polyps. Each polyp has a stem and a terminal head. Terminal head is known as hydra. It's a stem. See, each one is having is the stem, and this terminal head is known as hydra. This is the stem, which branches out from this hydrocolus. And hydrants are the feeding polyps. They feed capturing the minute animals and larvae. And these feeding polyps, they should feed for the entire colony, not only for themselves, but for the entire colony they have to feed. The hydrants are feeding polyps. They feed by capturing the minute animals and larvae. Towards the base of the hydrocolus, in the axils of the polyps, are the reproductive polyps called as blastostyles. There are certain polyps which are known as blastostyle. This is the blastostyle. These are the reproducing polyp. These are the feeding polyp. These are the reproducing polyps. And that means the function of the reproducing polyp is to reproduce for the entire colony. Toward the base of the hydrocolus, they are known as blastostyles. This is the blastostyle, the reproducing. Then entire colony is covered by a tough sheet of yellow chitinous material secreted by the ectoderm, and that is known as perisac. See, the entire colony is covered by a perisac, side a membrane-like structure, which is made up of chitin-like material, and perisac it is known as. Perisac constitutes the exoskeleton. It looks like an exoskeleton to protect the entire one because they are extending the protection to them also. everywhere from hydrorhiza, hydrocolloid to their branches. Each polyp is covered by this perissa, and it forms a clear, where in the polyp it forms a clear um, glass-shaped hydrotheca. See, this is the each polyp is covered by glass-shaped hydrotheca, which is very transparent, made up of this perissa. The colony of Obelia has many polyps. Remember, polyps means many-footed. Poly means many, means the footed, many foots. Hydrants means water serpent, or anthos means flower. So they are different names. So they are having hydrants or gastrozoid. Each polyp is very much like a miniature hydrant because each polyp function independently but contributes to the entire family. So it has a cylindrical body attached to the hydrocoelus, and free distal end it is covered by having the tentacles produced into conical elevation, what you call hypostome, and there you can expect numerous tentacles, about 24 tentacles. Uh, they are very long than hypostome, tapering and filiform, and they can help in capturing the prey. Another type of like this polyp, another type of polyp is gonangium. These are club-shaped cylindrical forms. They are also covered by a transparent gonotheca, and they are contain an axis or blastostyle on which lateral buds uh, develop into medusae or gonophore, because the gonangium is assigned the function of sexual reproduction. The blastostyle has no mouth and no tentacles. They are connected to the hydrocoelus, and they get the nutrition from these their feeding joints. Gonotheca opens at the distal end by a gonopore through which the medusa escape. See, this is one medusae bud. Here is an opening through which the medusae it forms. They are the reproductive uh, polyps. That the gonangium, and they produce the medusae. Medusae here they are the modified joints. Uh, they are produced as a very hollow bud of summer. Medusa swims freely on the water surface like a small miniature umbrella, and then they turn into polyp and continue their life cycle. So here metagenesis. What do you mean by metagenesis? Metagenesis means if any organism shows two alternative alternation of more than one generation, that is the sexual generation and asexual generation. Such organisms are said to have metagenic, and the process is known as metagenesis. Alternation of polypod and medusoid generation you can expect. Polypod generation is a sexual, asexual, and produces polyps and blastostyles by sexual blooding. Polypod generation is asexual and it produces polyps and blastostyle by asexual budding. Blastostyle also produce medusae by asexual budding. But these medusae do not produce medusae by asexually, but instead of that, they produce the gametes and give rise to polypoid colony, from which medusa are produced again by budding. So this is what you call. So this is the medusae of the obelia, how it appears. See, these are the tentacles, and here there's a mouth, and tentacles are provided again with the stinging cells. The life cycle, if you see here, this is a polypoid form, that's the medusae. Sorry, the polyp of the obelia. See, these are the gonangium, which produces medusae asexually. And this medusae will produce the gametes, male gametes, female gametes, as well as the male gametes, and they fuse and a zygote is formed. Zygote divides and ultimately forms a free swimming larva, what you call planula larva. Here the reproduction is asexual by medusae, because medusae produces both male gamete as well as the female gamete. And now the gamete fuse and zygote formation takes place, then multiplies by mitosis, that's by cleavage, and then they form a free swimming planula larva. This free swimming planula larva swims freely and then settles down to on some stationary object or hard object and to start a new colony. Then this develops into a polyp, and then this polyp develops a obelia colony, and this obelia colony again produces the medusae. See, this is medusae produces polyp sexually. These are medusae. They produce this polyp sexually by producing egg and sperm. This polyp produces medusae by asexually. Here it is asexual division. In the gonangium, it is asexual reproduction. So this is about obelia. Another good example and very interesting example is Physalia, which is also popularly known as Portuguese man of war. Here in the Portuguese man of war or in Physalia also, it has four kinds of highly modified polyps. There are four different types of joints the polyps have, and they depend on one another for the survival. Now, why this Physalia is known as Portuguese man of war? Especially these are very ferocious and very painful, powerful sting they have. Especially if you go to some of the ocean water, Hawaiian ocean water and other things. If the Portuguese Physalia is there, people never venture into the sea because it gives very painful sting. This Portuguese man of war occurs in tropical and subtropical region of Pacific and Indian Ocean and sometime in North Atlantic Gulf Stream also. Mostly they are found in the open sea, in bays, beaches, when they have a strong offshore winds. They look like this sea. Why they are called as Portuguese man of war? Because they have a polyp known as pneumatophore, which is gas filled. It looks like the cap of Portuguese soldiers. It looks like the as if uh, the cap of these Portuguese soldiers. So that's why it is known as Portuguese man of war. Uh, Sometimes found floating in large groups, swarms, groups of thousands. Uh, Animal is not a single animal because any animal you take, it has four different independent polyps. The polyps are concerned with either detecting prey, capturing prey, reproducing, feeding, floating, for everything. See, this is the Portuguese man of war. The head, it is a pneumatophore. It's also a polyp, which is the gas-filled one, and the function is to float. See, the usually in ocean it looks like that, as if it is floating. Their body consists of gas-filled bladder, nitrogen-filled uh, float, and this bladder-like float is very translucent, semi-transparent, usually pink, blue, or violet, 3 to 12 inches long, and uh, it may be above even up to 6 inches above the water. Also, it may float because it is gas-filled. Beneath the float, there are cluster of polyps which are hanging tentacles even up to a length of 165 feet. The entire length may go up to 165 feet in length when they are floating. So it's a photograph of the pneumatophore in the Miami beach. So the reproduction here is very, very interesting. The sperm from one mature Physalia fertilize the egg of another reproducing larva. Larval Physalia reproduces itself by asexual reproduction. Larval Physalia reproduces by asexual reproduction and grows identical colony of offsprings. Asexual reproduction leads to rapid growth and sexual reproduction produces genetic differentiation. If they want to reproduce within a short span of time, they will go for asexual type of reproduction because very easy. But they also go for sexual reproduction because there will be genetic differentiation. So combined with sexual and asexual, they can increase their population rapidly. See, this is how the Portuguese man of war or Physalia appears. This is the gas filled metaphor. These are different types of joys. They are carrying out different functions. The tentacles, see how they can catch the prey. Tentacles bear the stinging nematocysts here. These are coiled thread-like structure and that paralyzes the prey. Uh, then these structures attach to the victim and then the digestion takes place. This creature will eat anything that comes in contact with it. That's the very this thing. Even I have told you, it gives you a very painful sting even for human beings also. May not die, but it will most of the time. Sometimes even when there's a, if you get a sting from this Physalia, it may lead to fever, shock, even sometimes interference with heart and lung action also. Uh, this because it produces a toxin which is a neurotoxin. It is almost 75% as powerful as cobra venom. So very strong neurotoxic venom. When stung, carefully pick off any tentacle and suppose if you are stung by Physalia, of course in this beach there is no Physalia. Suppose if you accidentally bring, get a sting from Physalia, carefully take out the tentacles, rinse in fresh or salt water. Um, for severe pain, apply heat or cold, whichever you feel victim, and then take the medical help. This is, but when they are in thousands, it's a very beautiful sight to see because these nematophores they are floating on the water surface like balloons and different colors also. Sometimes they may be washed to the shore also by the tides. So this is about the hydrozoa and two three examples. Then let me move on to the next class. There's the class Scyphozoa. The members of this Scyphozoa, they are popularly known as jellyfishes. Jellyfishes are called and jellies, they are medusae. Only medusae are prevalent form in the life cycle. Then you may ask, what the medusae of Scyphozoa and Hydrozoa the difference? In Scyphozoa, there is no velum present here. A frill on the bell margin is not seen in the members of this Scyphozoa. And here there is one common structure known as Raphalium. This Raphalium consists statocysts and sometimes the ocelli. But whereas in Hydrozoa they are separate. Which one are the statocyst and ocelli? They are separately placed and they are not covered. But here there is a specialized structure, what do you call Raphalium, which um, covers or sense organs containing the statocyst, sometimes the ocelli also. Then here the tentacles are found, tentacles are around the periphery of the bell and they are used for to paralyze the prey, same function. Uh, and in the center, you can see four oral arms. See, surrounding the bell margin, they have the tentacles. But in the center, there are four frilly oral arm, long arm, and they are used for capturing and ingesting the prey. The function of these tentacles is to paralyze prey. Then it is the action of these four oral arms to catch them and digest them, ingest the prey in the mouth and then digest it. This Scyphozoa has a typical life cycle. They have a larva, what you call planula larva. This uh, jellyfish or this uh, saucer-shaped structure that the medusae, they produce sperms and eggs, and that fertilizes and zygote is formed. Zygote develops into a ciliated larva, what is known as planula larva, and this planula larva settles and then attaches, and then they start budding of this. It is known as the early strobila. See, and they are, it is attached as if the sasas are placed one above the other, um, umbrella-like structures, and they detaches, and each strobila develops into a structure called as ephyria, and then develops into a medusae. This is in case of the Scyphozoa, and this is a very good example for the Scyphozoa is the Aurelia, which is also known as jellyfish, moon jellyfish. Very common, even if you go to Arabian Ocean also, you will see. They are translucent. Translucent means semi-transparent in nature, and usually about 25 to 40 centimeters. Sometimes they are from here to here, they may measure even 25 to 40 centimeters across, and they have, it can be easily recognized from the top also because they have a, see here, the horseshoe shaped gonads, easily seen through the transport. See, even when they are floating from the top, you can see these four horseshoe shaped gonads, which is the typical characteristic feature of moon jellyfish, that is the Aurelia. And it is capable of limiting motion like other jellyfishes. Mostly the jellyfishes drift in the water current. Uh, even though they can swim, the ability to swim is very, very minimal, but mostly they will uh, drift in the water current. This Aurelia or moon jellyfish feeds mainly on crustaceans, fish fry. What do you mean by fish fry? Don't think that it is the fish that are being fried. The young fishes are known as fish fry, not the one which you eat after frying. So this is the fish fry, young fishes, planktons, molluscans. Even they may feed on other sea jellies also. So here the tentacles paralyze the prey, and then the oral arms capture them and ingest. It's a saucer-shaped jelly. Size ranges from 5 to 40 centimeters. And here the adult may live over a year. Polyp can live up to 25 years. They have a large translucent bell, but small short tentacles, four gonads. They usually swim by pulsation, rhythmic pulsation. But as I have told you, most of the time they are found drifting in the water ocean current. Uh, Even they can travel far. Even offsprings are far reaching. Uh, there are many predators for this also. Sea turtles, fish, offshore birds, and other larger jellyfish may feed on them. This Aurelia is found everywhere, all over the world. Jellyfishes, they have different color. Mainly they may clear pale blue color, but they can be yellow, deep blue, bright purple, pale, bright orange, deep red. Different colorations are there in different species. Uh, Very characteristic feature is even when they are disturbed at night, they give you bioluminescence. What is bioluminescence? That's the biological light. All of you must have seen in this rainy season the fireflies in Minkula which emit light. Like that, even these jellyfishes can glitter by producing the biological light. It is known as bioluminescence or phosphorescence. Um, these jellyfishes usually drift or move very gracefully by pulsating umbrella-shaped bell and a very proper coordination with their very simple nerves. So these moon jellyfishes swim usually horizontally, keeping the bell near the surface and tentacles spread in the water. Uh, this is how the moon jellyfishes illuminate their light when they are disturbed. Um, They are also known to live in sometimes the brackish water, low salt, even if the content is even up to 0.60%, 0.60% salinity. Also sometimes in the estuaries the jellyfishes are seen, but mostly they are found near the coast in the tropical waters, especially near reefs, tropical coastal regions, and they usually occur in huge number. They are very temperature sensitive. The most ideal temperature for them is 9 to 19 degrees centigrade, but they can withstand the temperature as low as minus 6 degrees Celsius and as high as 31 degrees Celsius. Primarily, they feed on crustaceans, tunicates, copepods, rotifers, nematodes, and all. Moon jellyfishes are carnivores. They feed on zooplankton um, and other these things also. This is how the Aurelia appears. Feeding, I have told you, they detect the movement and uh, the nematocysts things shoot out and paralyze the prey, and jellyfish then use their oral arms to catch them. This is the life cycle which I have already explained to you. That the adult medusae produce eggs and they develop into planula. Planula settles, polyp develops, the buds. Buds are known as strobila, and the strobila detaches, and each strobila develops into a medusae. So polyp, which is meant for asexual reproduction, and medusae meant for sexual reproduction. So this is what we have discussed, and some of the interesting fact about this moon jellyfish is it is made up of 95% water only. There are more than 200 species of jellyfishes. So that's why different colorations are seen in the jellyfishes. They have a very short lifespan. Uh, the longest surviving species only up to 2 to 6 months maximum. Um, there are many predators, especially leatherback turtles and sunfishes feed on this uh, moon jellyfishes or this thing. So this is an example for the Scyphozoa, and then we have to move on to the Anthozoa. Probably I will continue with the class Anthozoa and examples in the next class. ಏನು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತಾ? ಹಲೋ, ಈಗ ಹೇಳಿ. ಹಲೋ, ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ? ಹೇಳಿ ಯಾರಾದ್ರು.
ಹೌದು ಸರ್.
ಇದು ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ಕೂಡ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತಲ್ಲ? ಹಲೋ.
ಹೌದು ಸರ್.
ಓಕೆ. ಎನಿ ಡೌಟ್ಸ್? ಏನಾದರೂ ಡೌಟ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಹೇಳಿ. ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಡೇ ವಿ ವಿಲ್ wind up because you may be having another class.
ಎಸ್ ಸರ್.
Okay, thank you for attending.
ಎಸ್ ಸರ್, ಕೇಳ್ತಾಯಿತ್ತು.
Okay, take care. Bye.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸರ್.
Okay.